the Aegis Sabre is a good stealth fighter with performance aspects in line with some other medium fighters. It's got 4 size 3 weapon hardpoints, so it has good DPS for dealing with VHRT targets. It used to have 3 shields in 3.13, and I think that made it a little bit too good, but I think the 3.14 nerf that left it with only 2 shields puts it slightly behind its competitors now. I would say it's most comparable to the Anvil Hornet Ghost and the Banu Defender. The thing is, on paper, it loses out to both of those ships on maneuverability. The Banu also has a lot more shield than the Sabre, and the Hornet Ghost has more DPS and a better cockpit setup, and it's also cheaper than the Sabre. But in practice, the Sabre comes out ahead in durability, since its weapons don't get shot off, and it's got excellent straight line speed and acceleration compared to its class. It's hard to easily sum up this ship. It has different strengths and weaknesses depending on what you're comparing it to. All that said, it's still really satisfying to fly, and in my opinion, looks absolutely fantastic. Let's get into it. So the first target that we're against is going to be a Vanguard Warden. This is the easiest target that we're going to be against in VHRTs. You can also see that we're using a lag pip, which means that the targeting will basically show us where our shots are going to land, compared to a lead pip, which shows us where we want to aim our ship in order to hit the target. We're using Panther repeaters. All size 3 laser repeaters are the same, so it doesn't really matter what you use. These just happen to be cheapest and what came stock on the ship. So you can see that we took out that Vanguard pretty easily. Next up, we're against the most challenging VHRT target in the game, which is the Anvil Hurricane. Fortunately, because we're a stealth ship, and in 3.14 at least, stealth works pretty well, it takes a long time for him to get a lock on us, so he doesn't do a ton of damage to us on that first pass. Now, generally against Hurricanes, you want to avoid doing what they call jousting, which is where you're doing a little bit of it right there, where you basically kind of charge at each other over and over and pass each other. The Hurricane excels at this because it's pretty tanky with its size 2 shield and also a lot of hull HP, and it does a lot of DPS between its front mounted guns, and also it's got a really powerful turret on its back. So most ships that you're going to be fielding against it will be fielding similar DPS or less DPS than it. So what you want to try to do is you want to try to use your agility and mobility and try to get around it as best as you can. So here you'll see that I've sort of stopped jousting it. I stay a little bit more stationary. I try to wait for it to pass me, and then I turn my nose to point at it as it passes me, so that I get some more time to sort of get it under my guns and get some shots on it. So like right there. And I successfully kill it. You can see with that lag pip, as soon as the shots are definitely going to land, the indicator turns green on the target. We've seen the allies flying around us a little bit. They end up being 2 Sabres. Sabres are actually pretty easy targets to take out because they're not super agile, and so they are a little bit easy to hit. And so you can see that first one, we lock it up and take it out real fast. The next one, it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be flying towards us. We kind of try to rotate around it so that we can keep it in our sights, since it has no real mobility advantage against us. As long as we're smart about our range, we're able to keep it in our sights and take it out pretty quickly. Now let's talk about the fit that we were using. Like I mentioned earlier, we're using all the CF series Panther repeaters that came stock on the ship. There's no need to change them out. For the missiles, I like to take off the default missiles and swap them out with size 1 missiles just to get more of them. You end up with 16 total missiles if you do that. I've upgraded my stealth components to all be grade A stealth components. In 3.14, stealth components actually work pretty well. It gets your signature down, and that gets your detection range down. So you can get a lot closer to your enemies before they detect you and start either shooting at you or firing missiles at you. You could actually keep the default components on there. The upgrade for swapping them out with the grade A ones is pretty minimal, so you could save money there. The one thing I would suggest is swapping to the Atlas Quantum Drive, just so that you can get anywhere in the system on 1 tank of fuel, not having to stop to refuel like you would if you kept the stealth one. Let's also quickly talk about what you would want to use in the upcoming 3.15 patch. Based on what we know so far, I think you're going to want to swap out your missiles to make sure that you're using EM missiles. In 3.15, stealth doesn't really seem to be very effective, so you don't need to upgrade any of your stealth components. You can just use whatever you need for the power plant. In this case, the default power plant that comes with it works, so that's what I'm going to keep. For the shields, however, changing the grade of the shield will actually give you more shield HP. So that's grade A, grade B, grade C. Changing the class or the category from military to civilian to stealth won't actually change anything. So you're going to want to keep the cheapest grade A shield you can afford, which happens to be the civilian ones, which I have on there. And then same thing, you want to keep that Atlas quantum drive to just get around the verse quickly. Let's finish this off with a little bit of a longer fight where we take on a Valkyrie, a Warden, and a Hurricane all at once in a VHRT mission. So you can see that our primary target in this mission is the Valkyrie, but as soon as we open fire you can see on our radar in the middle that other two targets have warped in. I always go for the primary VHRT target first, just in case things go south and I get blown up or get killed. I want to make sure that I at least get the mission complete, get paid, and don't lose reputation that you can sometimes lose if you die before killing the primary target. The unfortunate thing is I am going to be eating some missiles here, so I do know that one of those other targets is a Warden or a Hurricane or something like a Cuddy Black or a Freelancer Miss. I'm trying to keep around my 800, 700 to 1k range to be effective and not get too close. Since the Saber is not ultra agile, I don't want to get too close because I'm not going to be able to successfully run tight rings around the enemy, but it wasn't a problem. I was able to keep enough fire on him while keeping my shields up that I was able to take him down pretty quickly. Right there, you saw that I locked up both of the other targets. I saw that we had a Hurricane, and then I immediately checked to see what the other target was. I don't want to go try and fight a Hurricane first if the secondary target is a little bit easier. My goal is to try and remove DPS off the field as quickly as possible. When we see that the other target was a Warden, well, that's one of the easiest targets you could possibly fight in a VHRT, so I go after that first. Same type of thing, I'm going to do my best to not get too close and try and keep it in the 700 to 1k-ish range. My repeaters can go up to 1500, but the further away you get, the more chance you have of shots getting missed or him juking or something. It doesn't take very long before we're able to remove him from the field and we put ourselves into a one-on-one situation. I take this moment of target acquisition and positioning to set my capacitor to shields to recharge and set it back to weapons and then go at it. That is one unfortunate thing about the Saber's cockpit. You have some pretty good external visibility. You can see on the sides, you can see pretty much the whole top 2/3 of the screen. And it's really cool that you can also see your guns firing, but you only can really see two of your multifunctional displays at once. I prefer to see my shield percentage and the enemy's status. You can see your own status in the top left and the enemy status in the top right, but it is so faint. I have a really hard time parsing that quickly in the heat of battle, so I like to set the relevant important info on my MFDs that are more visible. Unfortunately, this means the other screen that I really like to have visible during combat, which is my power setting screen, is not visible for me. I don't have any sort of head tracking or anything, so that's not going to be something that I'm going to be able to reference in the middle of combat. I just have to try and keep tabs on it and keep track of it, and make sure that I don't accidentally leave myself at the wrong power setting. In this combat, you can see that we're not doing a fantastic job of keeping him in the range that we want. I did a little bit of jousting there, but now I start to do a little bit... I change up my strategy a bit in how I approach him so that I can keep him a little bit more where I want him. And so here you can see he's staying a bit closer to the range that we want, and I'm able to get more fire on him without taking fire from him. Same thing, he tries to joust us again, but then I try to rotate around him and get him back into the position I want without taking shots. I do a little bit of corkscrewing, so I'm rotating while strafing to try and make myself a harder target to hit, and you can see a lot of his shots are going past us to the left there. Our shield is holding at about 46%, and we're able to land more fire on him. We're a little bit nose to nose there for a bit, so he takes some more damage, but he's close to dead, so at that point I just go for it. Commit, take him out. Well, that's it for the Sabre. It's a fun little ship. Not the best in class, I would say, by any means, but still very fun and satisfying to fly. Anyway, thanks for watching. Cheers.